Today we are going to learn about the area of a parallelogram. A parallelogram is a two-dimensional figure with opposite sides parallel and opposite sides the same length. So the opposite sides are congruent. Then we have a new figure called a rhombus, which is a parallelogram with four equal sides. To find the area of a parallelogram, we're going to write it out in words first. So the area, which is represented by this capital letter A, of a parallelogram is the product of its base, represented by a lowercase b, and its height, represented by a lowercase h. So we have a model. This is what a parallelogram looks like. So if you notice, this is just a rectangle, and then we have this extra triangle that we take out of this rectangle right here, and we move it over here, and it makes our parallelogram figure. So this is the reason, so if you go over here, this is our final product. This is the reason, if you look at our symbols, our formula is the same as the formula of a rectangle. We have A equals base times height. Area equals base times height. Area is the space inside the circle filling all the bottom layer up. So then if we have the same triangle that we took out of our rectangle and just moved it, we're going to have the same area. So the base of a parallelogram can be any one of its sides. By sides, it is meaning this right here, the long parallel side. And then our height is the height from each base, from the top all the way down to the bottom. It is perpendicular from the base to the opposite side, top to bottom. Parallelograms include quadrilaterals like squares, rectangles, and what we just learned, rhombi or rhombus. We're going to practice finding the area. We are going to determine the area of the parallelogram. So if we look, we are going to count how many squares the base. Remember, our base can be the top or the bottom. So we're going to count how many squares. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our base equals 6. And then we're going to count our height squares. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our height, h, equals 8. It's always important to label your figure. So we have our formula, A equals BH, base times height. We're going to replace the variables. So we don't know the area, that's what we're looking for. Our base is 6, so instead of the B, we placed a 6. And our height is 8, so instead of the H, we put an 8. 6 times 8 is 48, so our area equals 48. Because it's area, we would write it area is 48 units squared, where we have our squared up top. So now we're going to practice how to determine the area of a parallelogram. Let's look at our figure. We have two sides that we can choose up for our base. They've already written our centimeters down, so we're going to say B equals 20.8 centimeters. And then we find our height. We have two options. We have this 13 centimeters and we have the 11.9. The 11.7. The 11.7 is perpendicular. It is a straight line all the way to the bottom. So that's the one we are going to pick. This is a curved line and it's not straight perpendicular, so we don't want to pick that side. So our h equals 11 7/10 centimeters. So now we write the formula. Our formula is A equals BH, base times height. I want you to replace the variables with the numbers and multiply for our area. Once you get your final answer, you may press play. We are going to check this with our table groups tomorrow. So you're going to replace the variables with the correct numbers. You're going to multiply and then write our final answer. So press pause now and play when you are confident you have your correct answer. Now we are going to learn how to find a missing dimension. So in this, we are going to use the area of a parallelogram to write our equation. We still replace the variables of what we know, and then we solve for whatever's left over. So if we look over here, we have an h. That means we do not know the height. We know the area, and this is one of our straight lines, so this is our base. So we have our formula written out, A equals base times height, B times H. We replaced our area equals 45 inches for our A, because A equals 45. We replaced our 9 with our B, because B equals 9, so instead of a B, we're going to have a 9, and we do not have an H. So now our next step is to divide each side by 9. This is your balancing. What we do on one side, we have to do to the other. 9 divided by 9 goes away. 45 divided by 9 is 5. So H equals 9. I'm sorry, I just said 5. H equals 5. And then when we write, so the height is 5, this one we just label the inches. We do not put squared because it's not the area. Only area when finding A is squared, not when you find B or H. So we would just put the label of inches. So here we have number 4. Number 4, we're doing the same thing. We're going to write and solve an equation, and we're going to find the missing dimensions. So here we have the height. We have the area. Our base is unknown. Okay, so we have our formula of A equals base times height. I would like you to practice replacing the variables. Here it tells you step by step what to do. So just follow your instructions, and we will check this tomorrow with our table groups.